Hello, and welcome to the Industry Networking and Partnering webinar for the EBD Group BioSpring America Conference that will be happening on April 4th and April 6th. I'd like to welcome our guests, Thomas Lantz from Novo Nordisk, and Martina Molsberg, and from C14 Consulting. And my name, I'm Doug MacDougall from MacDougall Biomedical Communications, and we'll be moderating the call as well. We have a great kind of discussion today, and what I'd like to do is go through some slides that we've put together to talk about how to manage that meeting and how to work the meeting to be able to get the most out of it. I know people will be investing a lot of time and a lot of money to go to these meetings, and with a lot of goals and objectives of trying to build their network. And we have brought some experts together that can talk about this particular meeting, as well as all the EBD group partnering meetings and other partnering meetings in this industry. The biotech industry is very unique. We all very much live on our network, and we all live on having to raise capital and do partnerships with industry. And as for the service providers, we have a large amount of opportunities out there for companies that are developing new drugs and providing services. And these meetings are a great place to build your network. So we've got some great tips for you. So before we get started, I'd like to have our panelists, Martina and Thomas, just kind of introduce themselves and their background and kind of their history with these meetings. I've been doing the Bio Europe meetings for almost 14 years now, and I think I've seen Martina and Thomas at probably as many as those, and would love to kind of get a little bit of background. So Martina, why don't you take it from here?
Okay, thank you very much. As Doug said, my name is Martina Molsbergen, and I have been in biotech licensing for about 24 years now. At the present time, I'm CEO of my own company called C14 Consulting Group. We are a group of about 16 consultants. Our network is global. We specialize in investment strategy and business strategy. And we focus a lot on mid-stage to small biotech companies that need our particular brand of expertise. And we like to characterize ourselves as that we're a bunch of tried and true industry leaders. We have a lot of experience and track record to do what we do. Before I started C14 Consulting Group, I was with a company called Crucell in the Netherlands. And then prior to that, I was with KHK for a few years. And I've worked for other biotech companies and other companies and a long history in the industry. Thank you.
Great. And thank you, Martina. And Thomas, you want to give a little bit about your background and your experience with these meetings?
Thank you very much, Doug. So my name is Thomas Land. I've been with Novo Nordisk now for 14 years and enjoyed partnering for the last 10 years with Novo, and prior to that in my previous career, both for big pharma, pharmacia, as well as small biotech companies of my own entrepreneurship as well. So I've been in the industry approximately the same time as you, Martina, 25 years or so. Had various roles from academia to biotech to big pharma. I think regarding my background more is that I'm belonging to a team called Innovation Sourcing now, R&D Innovation Sourcing. So we're on the bias side basically. We're there to build relationships, and I can't think of a more perfect platform than the partnering meetings and the EBD group meetings in particular for doing that kind of relationship building. And that is very much what I do, and I also of course communicate about what we are seeking for the time being, because that is a dynamic world out there, but what we are seeking right now, what kind of partnership models we are entertaining for the moment. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Thomas. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Doug MacDougall, managing partner of MacDougall Biomedical Communications, and we help companies develop their messages for reaching out to investors and to partners. We do full service corporate communications work relevant to public relations, investor relations, corporate marketing communications on product launches, as well as medical and scientific communications. We do have a full creative team that does websites for our clients in addition, and video production on trying to explain technologies. And I've been in this business for 28 years and have had this organization for 14 years. And joining me is Mario Brukov, who is from my Munich office, who is on the call as well. And we do have about 28 people here in the Boston area, and we have 4 very senior people in our Munich office as well. So Europe is a very important area for us. There's a lot of great science. I think the science is just as good over there as it is here in the U.S. And we really, that's why I'm very much involved in the meetings over there in Europe, because there's some great companies that we love to help. Anyway, let's get started with the slideshow. And if you would like to move to the next slide, what we're going to talk a little bit about today is the agenda, which is the understanding the audiences that will be attending the conferences, prioritizing your business development activities, developing an effective profile in the partnering system, some tactics for setting up one-on-one meetings within and outside the system, managing that 30-minute meeting process. This 30-minute meeting turns out to be very quick and very short, and you want to be able to utilize that mostly and to the most effect. And part of that is setting an agenda and the presentations that are a part of those 30-minute meetings. And then some of the network tactics for the event, how to get more business cards and meet more people. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about post-event follow-up. Now, I'm going to go through this slideshow. I'm going to ask Martina and to Thomas to kind of add some value to the slides and their perspective. We'll try and get through these in the next 30 minutes. And if there are specific questions from the audience, I believe that you can type them into the system, and the people at EBD Group, Aaron will be monitoring, or Katie will be monitoring, I believe, and can forward those questions to me to add. So I'm just trying to figure out. Here we go. Good. So let's go to the next slide and talk about the audiences a little bit. Can we go to the next slide, please?
It's
there we go. Thank you. Yeah, I don't have control of this, so. The first audience of which everybody is probably there for is the pharmaceutical industry. Pharma tends to bring groups of individuals, probably anywhere from 2 to 20 people, sometimes more, to these meetings, and look to meet new companies, as well as service providers as well, but mostly it's to meet companies. And you've got to understand that these people get between 600 and 900 requests through the partnering systems to meet, and it takes a lot of time to go through these, and it's really important to be succinct and understand that when you are writing your request to meet with one of these people. Most of the people that are there from pharma at these particular meetings are what we call the BD Scouts. These are business development executives that have very specific agendas. They usually have great degrees in chemistry or biology or science that provide them to really do some quick and good assessment. But they have a shopping list of what they're looking for. And in order to get that shopping list ahead of time, you really can get most of that stuff on the pharma company's website. Almost every pharma company has a really good partnering page with contacts of people in very specific therapeutic areas and what they're looking for. Doesn't mean they're not looking for stuff that's not on that website, but you should be aware of what the areas that they're specializing in, and be specific in targeting those people, and also understand that your products or technologies will fit within a division of a pharma company. It's not everybody's all working together. There's very specific areas of therapeutic cardiovascular groups and oncology groups and respiratory groups and make sure you're targeting the right people for those groups. And usually on the larger companies, there's specifically business development scouts that are looking just for those groups. And you know, get to know what those groups are and where you should be targeting. There's also drug discovery and enabling technology groups at many of these companies. So be specific. And then once you get there, is really set up, get a meeting with these people. You know, set an agenda of what you want to talk about, because you're not going to get the partnership on the first meeting. And understand whether you've got the right people in the room and who should be in the next meeting is probably the most important part of that meeting. But one thing, and I think that Martina will articulate as well, is make sure everything is non-confidential. I have actually seen gone into a meeting with a client and they had confidential at the bottom of their slide deck, even though it really wasn't confidential at the bottom of the slide deck. That meeting was over before the first slide. We went to the first slide, because they said we cannot look at confidential materials without a CDA in place. So it is real important that you are talking at a non-confidential label, unless you've got a CDA, of course, with the organizations. And the last thing I think is, these people are at the conference, they're working the conference. A lot of the bigger organizations have booths at the conference, or they have suites within the partnering area. And there's no reason that you can't, if you didn't get a one-on-one meeting and you think they're an appropriate company to be going after, is that you go and seek them out and go stand by the room to their suite, or talk to people at their booth and learn about the right people that you should be targeting for future events or maybe for follow-up meetings. So Thomas, you're the expert at this and have played that role on the pharma side. Anything else we should be adding on this?
I think that the preparation is key, as you've said, Doug. Preparation to seek out to the right people is absolutely key. Otherwise, there's a big risk that your request for a meeting is just going to disappear in the vast number of meeting requests we do get. So please visit our home pages and look for the right people to connect with. And some pharma only have a few at the site. Choose the one that you think can best guide you in further connections at the company.
Yep. Martina, anything to add?
Yeah, I would like to add just that coming from the side of the small biotech and mid-sized biotechs that want to partner with pharma, as Doug mentioned, that they receive thousands of requests. So you're not the only one, but the trick is, how do you get noticed? And I think that there's some key guidelines to adhere to for that. Even if you're small, a well-presented message can be received very nicely on the other end. And you have to keep your presentations short and to the point. And that's the main thing. I think when a pharma has to review all those emails requesting meetings, just getting short and to the point helps them to decide yes or no whether or not I want to see you. The other thing is not to take offense if pharma says no. It doesn't mean that it's not of interest. It may mean that we don't have anybody here at the conference that can really talk to you sensibly. So those are some things to also remember. And I think it's not so much important that you get your sell done in that 30-minute meeting. It's more of making the connection, because the important part is the follow-on. So the idea is really just to identify who at pharma you need to talk to at this meeting, and then you'll go from there.
Good. So let's go on to the next audience. Next slide. So the biotech companies. You know, I think on this call we have people from the biotech, and hopefully we have some from the pharma, and we have some from the service provider side, and we have consultants on here. I just want to let people know that really don't forget that your peers are there and there are other biotech companies there. Now, for the service side, I understand you're targeting, but if you're a biotech company looking for partnerships, you should not just be looking at pharma. There are other companies that we're not going to talk about, but there's a lot of spec pharma companies out there, but there's also a lot of smaller biotech companies that maybe a collaboration may not be outside of the realm of possibilities. And now with the markets tighter the way they are for capital, and some of these companies with multiple products in their pipeline, there are probably opportunities to do some deals together and collaborations. And so you really should be looking and utilizing the opportunity at these meetings to meet with some of these, what I would call peers or competitor companies. I'm a real believer in keeping your competitors close and building relationships with them. And at the same time, there may be companies out there that have mutual boards than yours or mutual investors, and getting to know the CEOs or the heads of BD of these different organizations can be very valuable to you in times of trouble or times of hardship, or just as you're trying to build your company. So use this as an opportunity to network, and biotech to biotech meetings should be happening more at these conferences, I believe. But make sure you do your research first and understand what you're when you're talking to these companies, what their background is and where their focus is, and maybe you might find something. And I'm a real believer that the agenda, you keep real light on these. You don't need to be presenting each other's companies to each other, but just kind of use it as an opportunity to get to know each other and do that. But of course, you got to maintain strict confidentiality here. And I have seen some biotech to biotech deals that may just, some screening capacity within the companies, or assays that they're using that could be shared, or pipeline products that could be co-developed. These things are all potential news flow as well for your companies, that may be things that you're not really are top on your radar screen, but can be very helpful in building visibility for your company. So that's my kind of thoughts on the biotech to biotech. I know, Martina, you had some ideas on that as well.
Yeah, there's always something to say about biotech to biotech talks. You can maybe flush out ways to cooperate together with companies that have complementary capabilities to your own. And with that could come out different ways to collaborate. And so it's very important, because it may be a commercial vehicle that you weren't thinking of to advance your program or even your technology. So don't ignore the fact that you have lots of biotech companies around you that may have capabilities that will be an asset to you in the future. And it's very, very important.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the next audience. And that's service providers. There are a fair number of service providers. So you got to remember, they're the people that are really supporting a lot of the meeting financially and paying for your lunch.
Hey, Doug. This is Carrie.
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt you. The system's a little bit delayed, so I think that it's supposed to be on investors right now. Let me see here. Nope, I'm sorry. We are
service providers.
Okay, we're back on track. I apologize for that.
Okay, I'm working with on the screen. Thank you. So sorry about that, guys. So service providers, this is real important if you're on the call as a service provider, that you really take a thoughtful approach in approaching people in the meetings and working the system appropriately. But before I get into that too much, let me talk a little bit on the biotech side. Now, I've had many clients that have actually learned and found some really interesting new service providers for helping them out with business development or contract manufacturing or contract research or whatever at these meetings. And a lot of it is just fortuitous, where they just kind of run into each other, because unfortunately a lot of the companies tune out the service providers through the partnering system because of some of the things that happen. So I am just going to agree that from a pharma company and biotech, you should be utilizing the meeting to potentially build relationships and look for potentially new ways to do things, as well as intelligence gathering and whatever. But the service providers themselves need to be very careful on how they approach the biotech and the pharma companies, both through the partnering system. And I'll have Martina has a lot of great things to talk about that. Martina?
That having service providers at the meeting is terrific. It gives us a window to some of the capabilities that are out there at fee for service, et cetera, and access to new technologies and expertise. However, sometimes we see abuses of the system, the partnering system, as a result, where some companies want to quota fill. In other words, they just want to get together with any company. And I think that's a waste of time, because what it does is create a lot of noise in the system, and it's very difficult as it is, and I can address it even I guess Thomas can address it from a pharma perspective. When you're receiving 900 requests, just being buried in all of that, then your message, to me, it becomes diluted down. So there has to be better ways to work and also to network, especially for service providers, because it becomes rather competitive then. There are lots of opportunities from the booths and also from the receptions and the dinners and the lunches that EBD so graciously provides us. There's ways to get notoriety and your sponsorship featured around the meetings. It's not that people don't want to meet with you, it's just sometimes we're overwhelmed by all of the requests. So that's right. More what it is.
Thomas, what on the pharma side, do you have teams or some people that do meet and utilize those meetings with some of the service providers, or is that all done on a separate part of the world?
I would say that is done more on a separate one-to-one. If we do seek a new technology, we really seek individually each service provider that has the technology that fits. If we use a partnering meetings to do so, we clearly say it on our profile that there is a particular technology that we are seeking. Otherwise, we have actually tried to minimize the meetings requests from service providers by stating even in the profile that please no service provider requests, because I certainly concur with both Martina and Doug that it can cause a lot of noise in that. It's not that it's not valuable, but you're not going to meet the right people, I believe. I'm not the one to really judge if a new MS mass spec method is better than what we have in-house already. That has to be done by the specialist. We help to set up those meetings, but we do it normally outside the partnering meetings.
Okay. Yeah. No, so I think the key message is here is if your service provider is be very targeted, don't be spamming everybody. Me as a consultant in the communications industry have gotten multiple emails from companies trying to sell me contract manufacturing services, and I know that they've just gone out and pushed a lot of buttons. And I think if you were more targeted and spent the time and looked at companies that were, and if you're developing antibody services and only sending your stuff to companies that have antibody technologies or products that may need your service, and again be more customized, you will get a lot more results out of this, because it's building relationships. And there's so many requests for these meetings, one-on-one meetings on this system, that if someone sees something that's kind of a really canned request, it almost immediately gets deleted. And a lot of times people don't even bother declining the meeting, they just let it float there. And so be more specific is our definite message here. And now on the next audience. So investors. There are investors at these meetings. And a lot of them are the local venture capital groups or the regional in the European area. Every once in a while, we'll get a couple of U.S. investors coming to the European meetings, which is great. Generally though, they do take very few one-on-one meetings with new companies. They're there mostly to meet with their portfolio companies, meet with fellow board members, and to network with the pharma industry and maybe present their portfolio to some of the pharma companies as well, as a group. But it doesn't say it doesn't happen. But make sure that if you are reaching out to investors, this is something you've got to be really highly targeted on. If you want to get a meeting with an investor at one of these partnering meetings, you really got to do your research and literally understand the focus area of the venture capital group or the investor group, what co-investors they work with, portfolio companies that they have already that they have invested in. Look for competitive companies or synergistic companies, and also I like looking at the education, the background of the person. If they're you know, a PhD or a chemist out of Oxford University, and you are too, there's a real personal connection there. So utilize that type of stuff, but be very personal about you trying to get a meeting with the investors. And a real thing I believe is when you're talking to investors, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about the meeting, is never bash the competition. And really, when you are meeting with these guys, is really the focus of any kind of meeting with investor. And I think it is with pharma and almost anybody else, is not getting a check or a deal, but it's always about getting the next meeting. And we'll talk about that, about not saying too much at these 30-minute meetings. So the next audience.
Hey, I'm actually going to give you a question from the attendees.
Yeah.
I know that we tried to summarize the audience into these, you know, 4 main groups, and there obviously are other people that are coming as well. But somebody had asked about mentioning universities, and that pharma is partnering more and more with academics. And what special considerations would you have for academics meeting with pharma or biotech?
Oh, that's great. Tomas?
So I definitely agree. We always value to meet university representatives from OTLs and TTOs, and these, I think it's very valuable. I think most universities are very good in targeting towards our scouting lists, basically, and they try to have a focused and well-organized meeting. And we also, on our side in pharma, I think we're pretty good in scouting what universities we would like to meet, and also if invention disclosures are available, we have normally reviewed those prior to the meeting. So that works out quite well. I would like to add, though, that there is of course not a very good network of universities in the Europe to do this. It's scattered around. And we have a lot to learn, I think, in Europe on doing better licensing from universities and compared to the US or North America, at least. And some of it has to do with transparency and communication and investment for IP, etc., intellectual property. But there are many different reasons. So we often see less universities in Europe than what we do in US on the partner meetings.
Great. Martina?
Yes, so I run a scouting team for Kia Oaxaca on the early stage licensing, and that includes universities. So we do that. Coming to the meetings would be awesome because it gives us a chance to let's say, have one-on-one discussions about some of the opportunities that we see at universities. What I usually see on a profile for a university, though, doesn't include what the latest and greatest are. We have to go to those websites in particular to look for the shopping list of what is, you know, being advertised from the university. So I would say to anyone from the university side coming to BioEurope Spring or other EBD meetings, to have a well-advertised list together, and also what the clinical relevance, or let's say the competitive advantages would be for what you're doing. A lot of times with the opportunities we see, there's not enough information to make a conclusion. So it would be helpful if you could keep those as a reminder to yourselves when you're putting together the profiles.
Good. Yeah, kind of one slide on every technology that you can brief through quickly and see if something is of interest, and maybe even narrow that down to a table of contents with therapeutic areas so that you can be targeting the person that's in front of you, and then maybe just at the end of that meeting have a couple checked off that they want to do follow-up with. Right? You're not going to get into deep onto a lot of this stuff. Good. So let's talk about prioritizing your BD agenda. So what I'd like to do and tell my clients is when they're going to these meetings, even just for the first time or any time, is first of all, you probably have a checklist of companies that you think would be a primary target for your organization that you have met or you need to re-meet with a second time and or stimulate conversations with. And there may be 4 or 5 pharma, maybe 1 or 2 specialty pharma that you need to go after. And those are the ones you really want to seek out the targets for the meetings with, and those should be your #1 priority. But the second part is really you can go to the partnering system and start putting in some keywords and start looking for other organizations and other pharma that may hit with keywords, whether you're dealing with protein degradation or other types of technologies or a very specific therapeutic area, and start taking a look and see if there's other companies out there. And that's sometimes where you find some of these other biotech companies, but also some pharma companies do change what they're looking for all the time, and there may be some opportunities there. So use that search engine of the partnering system to look for people that could be worthwhile. Maybe there's some services you do need about. Your team is looking for the next, scale-up system for your antibody or manufacturing system, and you want to learn a little bit more. So there may be another opportunity for you to reach out for some of the team members within your organization while you're there. I'm also a believer in looking for friends to catch up with. I usually will go through my LinkedIn profile a little bit and look at people that are in Europe, but I also go through the names of the people quickly that are all signed up for this meeting. And they may be 1,000 names, but you can scan them quickly and you see some people that you want to catch up with. So the partnering system offers all that great stuff. And also the other nice part about the partnering system is that you can go on and log in, every 3 or 4 days and only ask it to show you those people that are new that have logged in, and that makes it a lot easier to kind of keep up with your searching for additional meetings within the system. But that's how I normally recommend on prioritizing. We'll go a little bit more into how to actually get those meetings, not just through the system and requesting them through the system on the next slide. But Martina or Thomas, do you have any comments on your prioritization, how you look at this?
Not really.
Yeah.
Straightforward. Yeah.
Okay. So, one of the things that's the most important when you go onto the partneringONE system is that 1 or 2 paragraphs that describe your company. I have been writing these paragraphs for companies all my life and been doing it for different countries and companies all around the world. And it is so important that that's your elevator pitch. And you really don't want to waste the first section about talking about where you're from and that you're meeting an unmet medical need and you have breakthrough technologies. All of those words are great, but everybody hears them. And you really want to be specific on what you do in that first sentence. And the way I think about that is you've got to have a first sentence that makes someone on the other side understand enough of what you do so they want to read the second sentence, and then the second sentence wants to make them read the third sentence. And by then, you got them hooked, and people will start digging a little bit more about your company. But that paragraph that describes you at the beginning really needs to be focused. It may not be general for you overall as a company all the time, but make it specific for that meeting. If you're there to seek a partner for European rights for a very specific compound you're writing in there, then say that right there. Don't talk about all of the whole huge pipeline of the products you've got and portfolio and whatever. Be specific in the request there of those meetings, and you'll be amazed at how you will actually get some more hooks for people. The other thing you want to do is in those paragraphs, or 1 or 2 paragraphs, is put the ask in there. If you're looking for money, you're looking for partnerships for the specific programs, put it right in there. Don't assume that they'll know that you're looking to partner there. As I said before, always want to build the paragraphs and so they want to read more. and want to click more through. It's all about keeping people's attention, and you got to look at yourself as if you're Tomas, who's having to go through 700 emails and 700 requests, and how he's going to sort through those and pick out the ones. And I've worked with many people on the pharma side who do tell me that if they don't get it in the first sentence, they just kind of put it in the trash. So, Tomas, you've experienced this many times?
Well, yeah, too many times, I guess. But I guess I'm the kind guy because I rarely trash things. I really try to be polite enough and answer, even though brief and sometimes yes by copy and paste of the previous answers. But I really try to follow up, and I think that it's out of courtesy. We should be a little bit better in the pharma side of it to also be kind enough to reply. However, this is key. The elevated pitch and how you break through that first sentence is absolutely key. And Doug is so right on this. And be specific, be as clear as possible. It's so much about communication when you build that critical first relationship. If it's on paper, email, through the partnering system, it really doesn't matter. But that is so important for us.
Yeah. Martina, any
Yes.
thoughts?
Just reiterate what you said. Develop a clear and concise company profile. Summaries, bullets are helpful. List only the facts. Don't give a scientific dissertation. You can always refer to a publication or a patent or things of that nature, but this is not the time and place for that type of article. Correct all spelling errors and typos. Poorly written profile conveys a bad company image, and please use English because most people are familiar with English in our business and the way we exchange. And fill out most of the details in the profile, and it's not a labor of love. It's because the pharmas are looking at you, and the more information you give, the better for them to assess whether or not they want to talk to you. It may be the first time that they're seeing your company, so company information is essential when you're trying to get noticed.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that don't fill their full profiles out. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, could I just add to that this is as important for universities to profile them. We see very often that universities is not having the same kind of need to, or they think that they don't have the need to profile, but it's extremely competitive between universities and meetings with universities as well. So university providers should really focus on developing their profiling in the partnering system as well. What are the specialities? What are the PIs profiles that have translational perspectives, etc.
Yep.
Hear, hear. I agree with you 100%.
Great. So let's go to the next slide. So, when you're trying to meet with someone and you see them in the partnering system, you can do a little bit more than just, send a request out. If you really want to meet with someone, you've got to remember that they're getting tons of requests. They're prioritizing things, and I'm a real believer that you want to do a little bit more. So you put out the meeting requests through the partneringONE, of course. Be specific to maybe the person there, if it's a team of people that you're trying to meet with. But then again, if that doesn't work, go to your LinkedIn or also go to your network and see if there's other people that might know this person that can make an introduction for you by email. Sometimes that really helps, of having one of your board members send an email to this person directly and say, look, my CEO of one of my portfolio companies is coming. Can you meet with them as well? Use your network. Also, no reason you can't just do a direct email to these people as well. Just not the spam, very specific, why you want to meet, what's important about the meeting, not the pitch about your company. It's all about why you want to meet. And sometimes that's harder to do through the partnering system, but a direct email, personal email can be valuable. And if all else fails, get on the phone. We're all buried in 200 to 400 emails a day that we're having to get through in our system. And sometimes I'm a real believer now that the phone call is the only way to get things done and get feedback from people quickly. You don't know how many emails I've flagged in my system that may be 3 weeks old, and I'm sure Martina and Thomas as well, that we have to go back to and keep us up at night that we have to worry about. Another great tool is using LinkedIn, going in and finding out what some of these people are and who else they know. And I've also seen companies and organizations use Twitter. I think at the JP Morgan meeting, Bio Showcase meeting, and some of the Twitter feeds I actually saw some companies saying, I'm coming to JP Morgan, and I've got this great product that's going to go into phase 3, and I'm looking for companies that want to chat with me about that. So there's social media out there. It doesn't hurt to do that. I think the Twitter handle for this meeting is #, what is it, BES16. And Bio Europe Spring 16, BES16. Any other tactics that you've had people trying to approach you with, Thomas, that have worked?
Well, that works is, of course, the annoying email to our chairman or our CSO or CEO. And I urge everyone, do not do that, please. We will certainly act on it, but it's just annoying, and I'm not a believer that you will build good relationship with me necessarily, but perhaps with others.
Right. I'm sure you get those. Those are fun to deal with. But Martina?
I think I would like to say, in setting up meetings, one thing to consider is you don't want to be too early, but you don't want to be too late. So what is a good time to start thinking about requesting meetings and emailing through your network, which I also think is key, because then you tell people, I am going to be there, is there a chance we can meet? And then they can go look for your email and your meeting request, because once the system starts and they announce partnering's open, there's a flood. The gates open, and then poor Tomas gets 400 personal requests to meet. So that's why a little nudge to him once in a while, saying, hey, I requested a meeting with you. Is there a chance, while his schedule's still open, he can maybe go in and find room for you? That networking is so key. But you also don't want to request a meeting just a couple days before the event. The chance of Tomas seeing it or having availability at that point is just null. It's not going to happen too often unless you catch him or trip him as he's running in between meetings. But it's not very likely. So again, early bird catches the worm. You don't want to be too early, because then people aren't even in the system, but you don't want to be too late either.
Yep, that's hard to call. All right, let's go to the next slide. So the 30-minute meeting, I'll go through this pretty quickly, but you've got 30 minutes, and really you've only got maybe about 25 minutes of time. And really you want to sit down and talk about, have a tactical plan before you walk in the door. Have known and understand the person that you're meeting with, have done the research on that person, understand their technical background, so there doesn't have to be a lot of back and forth about introductions, really be prepared and know which slides you're going to be presenting to this particular person because of their technical background or their interests and needs. And not have the same, it can be the same deck, but there's no reason to go through the whole thing. So a lot of the best meetings are the ones where no slides get talked about. You're just chatting and talking with each other, and maybe referring to a slide here and there. But the first thing I do recommend is when you walk into the meeting is set an agenda. How much time do we have? Do you have a presentation you'd like to show me? And make sure you leave enough time for both a back and forth conversation. Introductions, make brief. If you are going to have slides, no more than 15 slides. 15 slides takes 15 minutes. You've now taken more than half the meeting, so you want to keep it really short. I put down presentation technology. This is something that is really interesting. I've had people come in with their newest and latest iPad or some technology and end up spending 4 or 5 minutes talking about it, or having a problem booting it up, or not having the system ready, or batteries going dead and things like that, and wasting 10 to 15 minutes of your meeting with not talking about what you should be talking about. So be careful that you have the right, your technology's all set up, and you also don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it. Q&A is the most important. If I was to walk into a meeting with people and set an agenda, I'd want to have 5 minutes back and forth and the rest Q&A. Q&A is when a deal gets solidified, or when you start building relationships with people, and that's where the person on the other side gets to ask. You get to understand what they're thinking about, and they get to understand about where you're coming from a lot more. So Q&A, I highly recommend. Leave time for it. When you don't leave time for it, it does not make the meeting memorable. Q&As make the meeting memorable. Don't forget to listen. You know, the guy on the other side's talking, and you're probably always thinking about what I can say to him next to get his hook or get him interested. You should be really listening to the person on the other side. It's really hard with these quick meetings to take that time and do that, but and show them you're listening by repeating some of the things they're saying. It's very important to build that relationships, and again, those make the meetings memorable. And my last point is, never leave these meetings without a clear follow-up action, or new names to contact, or let me send you the can I send you the presentation, or how can we meet next, or who would we meet next, or when would be the appropriate time that I call you again. Those are all very important discussions to happen, and make sure that you write it on the back of their business card and have that with you so you can have those reminders, because the follow-up is important. Let me just, because of time, go on to the next one. Next slide. General networking for the event.
Comment on that, Doug, first before you?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, just want to say, when you're trying to obtain meetings, I think you need to ask yourself some things. Why would the audience want to meet with you? What is this is so important for your success. It gives you the highest rate of success. There has to be a reason to meet, and state it up front in your messaging. You know, have a point why you're getting together. And then when you get there, make sure in these meetings that you talk about your offering, but also what is the competitive advantage, because that's how they're going to measure you. So it's important that you make that statement somehow. You know, you don't have to go into these very long things. The pharmas are not going to write a check on the table or give you a deal right there and then. And the main thing to note is that the person sitting across you, it's so important to know your audience. It may not be the person to talk to at that particular company. It may just be your window person, or someone who can guide you to the person with the right background to assess what you're about to present. I think that's key to say, because why waste that person's time if they're not the right person to talk to? And that's what you have to remember. You know, great that you have this wonderful discovery or science and interesting, but if you're talking over the audience, I don't think that makes anybody happy in these meetings. So the best thing to do is say, okay, are you that person that is this okay to present this information before you start? And then, or do you want just a summary, and I can then follow up with you and you can get it to the right person? It's more appropriate to do it that way than to overwhelm the person in front of you. So that's my take.
Yep. And Tomas has been on some panels for me, and we all agree that we've done in these panels before, is having that discussion in the agenda at the very beginning is so critical to make that 30 minutes valuable, right?
Agree.
Okay, next slide. So general networking of the event. You know, these are events where you want to meet people, and I see so many companies and or organizations go to these meetings and stand around and talk to each other at the networking events, or have lunch together when they've been spending all their time, you know, together anyway at the meeting. So you have 3 members of a management team all not networking and just talking to each other at this meeting, it really drives me crazy, because there's huge opportunity here to do this. And when my team comes over, and I know Mario, who's there, and who's on my team, and a couple other team members will be there, they're going to have, the goal is to get as many business cards as you can and build new relationships. And that means meeting the people on both sides of you when you're standing in lines, you know, going up and introducing yourself to people at receptions, and just going to tables that are not your team members, and sitting down and meeting the people at breakfast and lunches, and also working the floor. If you've got extra time and want to sit down and not sit and do some emails, sit down at a table with someone else and introduce yourself first, and then do your work. It's amazing how you meet people that you never knew how important they could be to you for the future. And I've been doing this for 28 years, and I have some people I met that are like really early, first time. They've been to one of these meetings and are now, you know, CEOs of global companies over the years. So it's really great to take advantage of the network that's there. Also, scout out your competitors. If you got competitors out there, they're presenting in some of these rooms. You're not going to do one-on-ones as much, but you can go see their presentations. Also, there's the ability with the partnering system to set up on-site meetings. You meet somebody and you want to do a follow-up with them. There's lots of tables there to do the meetings, but you can also walk up to the partnering desk and say, do you have an extra room? And I'll tell you 9 times out of 10, they got one, and they can assign it right there. You don't even have to go through the partnering system to sit down with people. So the goal here is network, right? Thomas, you're one of the best networkers out there. I see you everywhere. Any other tricks?
Well, I think the trick is really to just be there and be available, and that goes also for the pharma colleagues. I think it's extremely important that we come there to build relationships and to enjoy meeting new people, building relationships and trustworthy relationships. And the best way to do that is by making yourself available and listening and talking. I think that's absolutely the best, and I can't see any better platform than EBD group partnering meetings for that purpose. They are building the atmosphere and then making it easy for us, so it's really good. Good.
And our last slide is follow-up, and Martina, I'll have you talk about this. You're the expert at this.
With follow-up, I think the most important thing to say about follow-up is that you should realize that the pharmas are going to be overwhelmed, at least for a good couple of weeks, but you should be prompt with your follow-up. You should do it within a week or 2 of the conclusion of the BioEurope Spring meeting. And then after you're done, you may not get a reaction for a little bit, but it is appropriate to reconnect with the scout approximately 4 weeks after your initial follow-up to see if there's any further questions, or if there will be more information coming back to you from the scout. And if not, they'll tell you, no, we need more time to evaluate. But it's good to remind the scout also that you did send them something and you're hoping to get some feedback.
Good. And I don't know if there's any additional questions out there for the people, but I do want to introduce Mario Brukov, who I guess is on the screen here, and who works on my Munich office, and he will be there with a couple of our team members at BioEurope Spring, and would be happy to sit down with any of the people that are on this call and chat with them a little bit about toning their messaging and getting it more effective for these types of meetings. That's what our firm does for a living. And there will be some people there that you can chat with on that. So feel free to reach out to Mario and some of his team members. Any other questions have come in, Erin, Katie?
You know, not any. There was one going back to the meeting requests, and somebody were asking if they should follow up if they do not get responses, if that was an okay practice.
Yeah, and I think we covered that as try other ways, direct email through your network, but make sure you're not just asking for a meeting, you've given a reason for the meeting. I would like this meeting because it looks like you are really looking for antibodies in rheumatoid arthritis, and we have one for you that could be very exciting, versus just, oh, I'd like to meet with you and tell you about our product pipeline. So that's one of the things that are very important when you are reaching out beyond the partnering system, of being very specific of why you want to meet with these particular companies. And it is amazing how those requests will actually get a response, whether it's a yes or a no, or let's talk later, versus just a general, you know, I have a portfolio of products meeting an unmet medical need and can looking for partners. So be specific, and I think that's the bottom line here that we're all learning about this. So
okay, Doug, thank you. I think that everybody did an excellent job. I really want to thank our panelists for joining us, Tomas and Martina. Thank you very much. Doug and Mario, thank you for hosting everybody, and what a wonderful presentation. There's a screen up right now with contact information for Aaron Rigetti from our team here at EBD Group. If you have any specific questions about the webinar or about BioEurope Spring, we also have Doug's information up there as well in case you wanted to reach out to him about any questions. And I think that I had one more slide I was going to show that just reminds everybody that BioEurope Spring is happening in a couple weeks, and we really hope to see you all there. And if you are not yet registered, you can still do so right on that link, ebdgroup.com/BES. Doug, is there anything else you wanted to say before we say goodbye to everyone?
no, I'd just like to thank Martina and Mario and Tomas for participating and helping out pull this together. Thank you.